Hillary Clinton sat down for an interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin. It was a New York Times event, and it seems like one of the main topics was Elizabeth Warren and her proposals. Of course, the wealth tax came up in conversation with Clinton, and here's what she had to say.
Do you support a wealth tax?
You know, I don't know the details of it. I hear about it. I hear what it would cover. I don't understand the mechanism that would be required. You know, I'm not against, raising rates. I'm not against, getting rid of things like carried interest, which I think have, gone way past their sell date. I just don't understand how that could work, and I don't see other examples anywhere in the world where it has actually worked over a long period of time. We used to have a wealth tax. It was called the estate tax. I would be all in favor of reinstating the estate tax because that is much more measurable. It is not as disruptive. If you were going to do a wealth tax and it was on assets, which as I understand it is what they're looking to do.
That's what they're looking to do with it.
How you would value it is, I think complicated to start with, but assume you could get some system of valuation. People would literally have to sell assets to pay the tax on the assets that they owed before the wealth tax was levied. That would be incredibly disruptive.
So Warren's wealth tax plan is actually not very complicated, and it's very easy to read, and it takes maybe 5 minutes max. So she should read it before she comments on it. But nonetheless, I'll go ahead and explain some of the answers to the concerns that she raised there. So first off, the mechanism that would be utilized in order to determine the value of the assets is called the IRS. And that's the same mechanism that's used for determining assets or the value of assets in estate taxes. And so Warren's plan would use that same mechanism. The only difference is rather than focusing solely on estate taxes, it would focus on the wealth tax. It's like essentially doing the same thing you would do for the estate tax, right? And what they would do is, let's say you have assets that are difficult to determine in value, right? So let's say you have a valuable piece of art, right? That is an asset that's worth something that could potentially be taxed under Warren's wealth tax. In her plan, she has written that you can defer that tax for up to 5 years in order to give ample time to determine the value of that asset. So it's actually very well thought out. And if you decide to denounce your citizenship in order to avoid these taxes, this is an argument that Republicans make all the time. Oh, they're gonna leave this country. What are we gonna do when all these rich people leave the country? Well, there's actually an exit tax written in her plan, and that tax is to the tune of 40%.
No, if you'd like to leave, have at it, Hoss. You're just gonna have to give us 40% right now. Instead of 2 cents or 6 cents, we'll take 40. Your call. Okay, look, but I don't want people thinking it's punitive. What happened was there was a class war in this country. It was waged by the wealthy, particularly not all the wealthy, but particularly the donors, against all the rest of us. And so they lowered their taxes systematically over the last 40 years. And they increased the fines you pay, the fees you pay, they increased the payroll tax, all the regressive taxes, the sales tax, all of that stuff that you pay more, they increase. They already did that war, they already won that war. And so when Warren or Sanders says, no, wait a minute, we're gonna put this back into balance, they flip out like, oh, do you? Now look, I'm not saying that the wealth tax is the easiest thing in the world to implement. Yes, there'll be people trying to hide their assets, etc. In fact, I want to read one of your guys' comments. One of our members wrote in, their handle is, you're gonna need a bigger Buttigieg. And wrote in, I do worry that what Andrew Yang said might be true, tax them 3%, tax them 6%, tax them whatever, it will be difficult to make them pay up. Other countries tried it and gave up. So I wanna give you full context. By the way, we read our members' comments throughout the show. If you wanna be a member, tyt.com/join. And so I understand some of the challenges there, but can we overcome them? Well, as Anna pointed out, even Hillary Clinton showed you how we could overcome them. She mentioned the estate tax. So we already do this. We figure out your assets, we figure out what they're worth, and then we take some percentage of it in the estate tax. So there's really no reason on earth why we couldn't do it yearly as opposed to one time. So will some people, and Hillary Clinton's right, some will have to sell some assets to pay the tax. But if remember, it's for people that have over $50 million in assets. And then it gets a little steeper on people who have over $1 billion. So if you have to sell one of your beloved paintings that you bought for $125 million because you didn't know what to do with your money, so that you could pay a tax on the other billions of dollars in paintings and cars and yachts you have, and that pays for Medicare for all?
That literally keeps people alive.
Yeah, that keeps people alive. I'm not only not going to shed a tear over that, I'm going to be exuberant about that.
Totally, 100%.
This is why Hillary Clinton lost, because she empathizes with the very, very wealthy way more than she empathizes with the average voter. That's why people thought she was elitist. And there's a reason for that. She's surrounded by them. She is one of them. You know how much money the Clintons have now? Well, when they went into office, they had almost nothing. Now they have over $150 million. So you can say, hey, listen, they earned it with speeches to bankers and books, etc. But they have a lot of assets, and this tax would apply to them. So all of a sudden, she finds it very hard to execute.
One other thing that she finds hard to execute is Medicare for all, the legislation that Bernie Sanders wrote and Warren supports. And so she's asked about that, and here's what she has to say.
Do you think, though, that the Medicare for all plan that you saw last week, you could get behind?
You know, I think if it were to go to the Senate, that was the point I was making before. If you had a president who pushed to present it, I would be very much in favor of whatever the debate was. And
But you just don't think that that plan would ever get enacted?
No, I don't. I don't. But the goal, the goal is the right goal.
So I would give her half credit there, actually. At least she's saying it's the right goal. I know that for the current politicians running, that's their excuse for not actually doing it. Oh, it's a good right goal, and we'll get to it 20 years from now. But she's not running for office. She's at least backing up that, yeah, we should get to Medicare for all. Now, the second half, I'm not gonna give her credit at all, quite the opposite. But in an ironic kind of way, remember, she proposed much more comprehensive healthcare during her husband's administration, and she got burned on it, and she lost that vote, and it was considered damaging to the Clinton administration. But I never minded that. I give her credit for trying.
Definitely, yeah.
So, but Washington doesn't see it that way. And so everybody said like, oh, Hillary Clinton doesn't know what she's doing. She tried to actually help people, and she got so burned by that. The lesson she learned was don't.
You're right, yeah, that is the exact right commentary on it, right? Because I think her personal experiences and the messaging following that experience has kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of pushed her to submission on the whole idea of Medicare for all. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think the country is in a different place right now. You know, later at one point in this interview, she mentioned the fact that the Affordable Care Act is actually wonderful because now 90% of Americans have healthcare coverage. But coverage is not enough. Coverage just means, all right, well, if there's something catastrophic, I have a private insurance company who's gonna price gouge me into bankruptcy. That's what that means, right? And you still have 30 million Americans who do not have any healthcare coverage at all. The system is still incredibly flawed. So like that statistic of 90% of Americans have healthcare coverage is not a good statistic to cite, especially for people who actually know what's going on with private insurance in America.
So last set of stats that I'll give you guys on that. The average family of 4 pays more than $12,000 a year in healthcare. That is a stunning number and makes no sense at all. So it's no wonder that people go bankrupt. In fact, 23 million people don't have healthcare. So you say, oh, we're covering 90%, 10% is a lot. And so that's 23 million adults that don't have healthcare. And then you've got another 64 million who forego medical treatment because they're worried it's gonna bankrupt them. So, and some of them die because they didn't take their medicine because they thought they couldn't afford it. So Hillary Clinton, when she went to Washington, was right. You should try for bold change, even if you don't win it first try. Unfortunately, what you could see it in this interview, Washington warped her. So she came in with the right ideas and the right effort, and she came out thinking nothing is possible. Let's not even try. Everybody, please don't, whatever you do, don't try. The Republicans will beat us. Please surrender right away. Well, you did, that's why you lost the election. And this is not what the American people want. What they want is strong progressives actually fighting for them. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.